am Alpha and Omega. I'd like to say Aleph and Tav. The beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they who do his commandments, that they might have the right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates of the city. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. But the question Carrie's asking is, my question is, if all of the tares are gathered up and burned up first, just before the millennium, where did these lawless people come from? Believe you me, let me just clear this up with you, Carrie. In the millennial kingdom, there are not going to be anybody but the redeemed walk there. The day of the Lord is absolute and complete for the destruction of the enemies of God. And when he's making the phrase here, for without, in other words, it simply means none of them are here.
So, I don't know if you caught that. Monte Judah believes there that there will be no wicked people, no wickedness in the millennium.
What?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
but
you.
what about if we went to the very end of Revelation? Doesn't it say, like...
I think it's interesting that you went straight to Revelation. I went straight somewhere else.
Well, because he's quoting Revelation.
Okay, go for it. Show me.
I'm just thinking right at the very end. Let me look here. Revelation 22. Let the one who does wrong still do wrong. The one who's filthy. That's not. I don't know if that's the one that I'm thinking about.
You find it real quick, and I will read you what I went to first.
Okay.
Okay. So we're talking about, then the Lord my God will come, and all the holy ones with him. In that day there will be no light. The luminaries will dwindle. Okay. And in that day, living waters will flow out of Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea and the other half toward the western sea. It will be in summer as well as in winter. And the Lord will be king over all the earth. What are we talking about? This is the millennium. In that day, the Lord will be the only one, and his name, the only one. All the land will be changed into a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, but Jerusalem will rise and remain on its site from Benjamin's gate as far as the place of the first gate to the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananel to the king's wine presses. People will live in it, and there will no longer be a curse, for Jerusalem will dwell in security. Okay, so what does this sound like to you? In my opinion, this is the millennium. Okay, it will come about in that day that a great panic from the Lord will fall on them, and they will seize one another's hand, and the hand of one will be lifted against the hand of another. Judah also will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the surrounding nations will be gathered, gold and silver and garments in great abundance. So also like this plague will be the... Oh, so I missed a verse. I'm sorry. I apologize. Zechariah 14:12. Now, this will be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the peoples who have gone to war against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they stand on their feet, and their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongue will rot in their mouth. It will come about in that day that a great panic from the Lord will fall on them, and they will seize one another's hand, and the hand of one will be lifted against the hand of another. Judah also will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the surrounding nations will be gathered, gold and silver and garments in the great abundance. So also like this plague will be a plague on the horse, the mule, the camel, the donkey, and all the cattle that will be in those camps. Then it will come about that any who are left of all the nations that went up against Jerusalem will go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to celebrate the Feast of Booths. And it will be that whichever of the families of the earth does not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King of the Lord of hosts, there will be no rain on them. If the family of Egypt does not go up or enter, then no rain will fall on them. It will be the plague with which the Lord smites the nations who do not go up to celebrate the Feast of Booths. This will be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations who do not go up to celebrate the festival of booths. In that day the Lord will inscribe on the bells of the horses, holy to the Lord, and the cooking pots in the Lord's house will be like the bowls before the altar. Okay, Zechariah 14. Clearly talking about the millennium, clearly talking about people who are disobeying the Almighty.
The back to the verse though, was the one he read 22, 14, and 15?
Which one are you talking?
Where he's talked about without, the word without.
Oh, hang on just a sec. Millennial.
I think it was.
Let's listen to it one more time.
I am Alpha and Omega. I'd like to say Aleph and Tav. The beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they who do his commandments, that they might have the right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates of the city. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers.
So he's reading the King James Version, it looks like, and there's some variance in text. But this without, there's a language issue again. It just means outside the city are these things. Dogs, sorcerers, immoral persons. He's saying that he's fabricating a new way to read that, which means he's the one who loves and practices a lie.
Ooh. And Lois Morgan has given us...
That's not me. We have a lie detector test that determine that.
So Lois Morgan gives us Isaiah 65:20. No longer will there be in it an infant who lives but a few days, or an old man who does not live out his days. For the youth will die at the age of 100, and the one who does not reach the age of 100 will be thought accursed. Okay. And actually, I'm glad you brought that passage up, Lois, and this is going to play into my Zechariah passage, because I was wondering, what is he going to do with Zechariah 14? Well, actually, Monte Judah, like as if he heard what I said to myself, responds to Zechariah 14 and to Isaiah 65:20. Here's what he has to say.
Let me see. In the millennium, we have free will. For example, if someone decides not to attend one of the 3 required feasts, there will be a drought in their immediate area. A lot of these expressions that we find here that's describing the kingdom, let me give you another one. If a man lives to 100 and dies, that he'll be a young man. There's a lot of expressions that are used by the prophets trying to explain to you what the millennial kingdom will be like. They're not saying those things will happen in the millennial kingdom. They're trying to give you a comparison to what the kingdom will be like. If a person was 100 years old and died in the kingdom, he would be considered a young person. It's not saying people die in the kingdom. That's not what it's saying. It's talking about you're going to regard 100 years of age to be a youngster. That's what it's saying. And some of these other expressions in here, if you were to not attend the feast of the Lord, then you would have a drought. You wouldn't receive rain. It's not saying that people are going to intentionally do that. It's just trying to give you descriptors of what the kingdom will be like by sometimes defining you what it will not be like. In other words, it's trying to show you how powerful and to a very great extent how everyone is going to be in agreement.
Okay. So here we have it. Monte Judah now is telling us that Zechariah 14, metaphor. It's just metaphor. That's not actually going to happen. Isaiah 65, by the way, that was quoted by Sarah, not by Lois. I apologize for giving wrong credit. So Sarah in our chat room was the one who brought up Isaiah 65. But according to Monte Judah, now, that's just metaphor. It's just metaphor. If we're going to be able to turn all of this into metaphor, why don't we just go with dispensationalism? Right? If we can just say that all of the scripture is all just metaphor, what's interesting is that he takes a lot of this metaphorical imagery that we're given in Revelation.
I prefer Metatron.
Of course. I wish I still had that buzzer sound. He takes a lot of this metaphorical imagery that we have in Revelation, and he makes it, and he solidifies it into, in his mind, fact of what's going to happen. But then when we have huge chapters, which doesn't seem to be speaking in metaphorical language at all, he says that's metaphor.